Hi everyone, we're walking a series on masturbation, and this series will link into the What is Sex series that we're currently walking. So we suggest for a history in relation to how sex became part of human civilization, as well as the primary purpose of human existence, to invest in the What is Sex interview series, where we had started off with walking an entire history in how the mind was created, programmed, and manifested within the nature of and as energy, and how that energy has been channeled into human functioning and living to produce and experience and create oneself through energy, and how that energy generation and creation, primarily through sex, had been channeled into the existence and creation of heaven. So essentially walking that process of how the mind, energy, and sex was directly related to, into, and as the existence of heaven. And masturbation is and does form part of the process of what is sex, as masturbation is the creation of an internal alternate reality in which one experience equal to and one with how one would experience, for example, a relationship or sex with an actual human being, is internalized into an alternate mind reality. And thus how masturbation is manifested equal to and one with an experience that one would have an actual real reality. So if one have a look at sex and masturbation, both are equal and one and exactly the same. However, the two manifest within different contexts of reality, the one in physical reality and the other in mind reality. So in the masturbation series, what we're going to walk is having a look at how exactly it is that we create this alternate mind reality within our minds, into and as which we imprint ourselves and actually generate and create a reality that is equal to and one with actual physical reality. So we completely separate ourselves from physical reality into a mind reality, where whatever we do in this mind reality of masturbation is equal to and one with, as though actually doing it in actual physical reality. We're gonna walk this whole process in showing you why it is in the first place that whatever you do within your masturbation reality is equal to and one with doing it in actual physical reality. This is within the principle of how we as human beings are existing within our minds, our mind consciousness systems, where all of our participation within physical reality is manifested within the starting point of and as the mind. So whether participating in sex within our minds or in actual physical reality, the starting point, the source, the nature, the reality, the experience, everything in fact happens within our own minds. And there's no actual real physical participation in actual physical reality. As we've walked the What is Sex interview series, we have illustrated and shown practically how it is that, for example, relationships, we do not in fact have relationships with actual human beings in actual physical reality. We create relationships within our own minds and interact with our self-created relationships towards other human beings within our own minds. All relationship interactions in fact manifest within our own minds, and this is no different to what manifests within and as masturbation. The relationships we create within and as masturbation is equal to and one with the relationships we create with other human beings in actual physical reality. It's simply the reality positioning, if you will, that changes, where our relationships are experienced externally in physical reality, whereas with masturbation, our relationships are experienced internally. But all of it happen within self, within one's own mind, in fact. So from that perspective, we also suggest investing in the What is Sex interview series, where we have in detail walked how it is that all relationships only exist within our own minds, where we create relationship profiles of people, of environments, of experiences within our own frames of references, and therefore we always in fact only have a relationship with our own mind. Within masturbation, we are going to have a look at why masturbation exists, how it is that it came about within the evolution of the mind consciousness system of human civilization. And when we say the mind consciousness system, we mean the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious mind, the physical mind, how it is that our entire mind consciousness systems have been entirely, completely sexualized, in that as we come of age in this world, that all our relationships are categorized and organized within ourselves within the context of meeting people and analyzing their entire profile within ourselves in assessing whether their relationship sex material or not. And this becomes our total reality of relationships in our world. And within that also in masturbation, how images, pictures, movies, media, people we meet, we immediately assess according to our masturbation reality profile, and accordingly organize, categorize memories, experiences, pictures, images, media, movies into ourselves, and manifest a masturbation database. So even physical reality is then changed into being or becoming sexualized. And how within that, if we have a look at the world system, the money system, and how within that context masturbation has been deliberately exploited within human beings for the purposes of money. And also within the masturbation series, we're going to have a look at where exactly the masturbation reality exists within our minds, how we create it, how we generate it, how exactly is it that when we see something or someone, it is imprinted into ourselves, in the mind, in the physical, where it's stored, where it's layered, how the mind as ourselves categorizes and organizes what it is that we physically see in reality within and into our masturbation reality, that everything of this physical reality has become sexualized, how the mind consciousness system has been structured, programmed, and manifested to be able to facilitate this process of masturbation. What is the physical effect of masturbation within our human physical body? What exactly is happening within our human physical body with participating in and becoming possessed with masturbation, where the energy goes that we generate within and during masturbation. And as we've walked many interviews and material within Destiny thus far, now we have given perspective of and explained the extent to which the mind influence and affect the physical. We've also walked this in detail within the What is Sex video interview series, where we have explained the direct relationship between the mind and the physical, which will give a more encompassing perspective of the physical effects of masturbation on our human physical bodies. Then we're also going to walk the relationship consequences with self and others that is caused by and through and because of masturbation, in how through masturbation we create this illusionary satisfactory reality of relationships with ourselves and others, and separate ourselves extensively from actual physical reality, relationship forming, communication, growth, development through interacting with other human beings. We're going to have a look at why it becomes more and more difficult to actually have effective relationships with other human beings of the opposite sex, and why it becomes so difficult to communicate. Why is it that with masturbation and masturbating quite regularly and often, one isolate oneself into one's mind more and more and more and more, and within that, why and how it is that masturbation becomes a complete possession. What is that possession? Why is it that we become more satisfied with our masturbation reality than actual real physical reality? And why it is that within that masturbation reality we also lose complete interest and focus within actual physical reality. We lose interest and focus in even ourselves, and all our focus and attention is drawn into and channeled into this alternate masturbation reality. Why is that energy of masturbation so addictive that we do not even see or realize how we've separated ourselves from actual physical reality, from real relationships, from other human beings? We don't even see or realize how ineffective our communication is, our relationship forming, our participation in physical reality. What is the subconscious and unconscious mind components and experiences of ourselves that is creating the total suppression of ourselves and physical real reality, and having the masturbation reality become more than ourselves, physical reality, others, and effective real relationships? We're also going to have a look at how with masturbation, when, for example, we see pictures, images, people walking, moments of people walking, through media, pornography, news, as I've explained earlier, where physical reality becomes a masturbation reality accumulation. How it is that in, for example, imprinting a moment of reality into ourselves of another human being, and with that imprint of that moment, we replay it within ourselves in our mind, and we in our mind create a relationship with that moment, that memory, and that person. How that person's mind resonance imprints into our mind consciousness system, and we essentially form a mind relationship with another human being's entire mind consciousness system, which is equal to and one with what happens when you form a relationship of sex with another human being, where the two minds would merge into each other, imprint into each other, and so lock them into a mind relationship system, which is why in relationships one do not ever change or grow or develop or expand. One remain locked into a self-definition, a self-experience, and maintain each other's personalities, egos, minds, and who one is, which has become the foundation of relationships in this world and reality, to ensure that human beings never change, but they lock each other into relationships of acceptances and allowances. And the exact same manifests within one's mind in creating one's masturbation relationships, where one lock oneself into a relationship with another human being's mind. And then masturbation becomes the manifestation of maintaining one's self-definition, one's personalities, one's ego, one's who one is. Because the nature of the relationships that you create in your mind with other human beings' minds is standing within that same context of ensuring that you don't change. Which is why within masturbation, one will have a look at how we in fact diminish. We become less and less and less, more inferior. And what is generated within us as masturbation is all of our acceptances and allowances, self-definitions, personalities, and that you start feeding more and more and more and more, which is why it then becomes more difficult to really interact in physical reality, because in physical reality interaction, one do still move with other human beings. You gain insights, understandings, question, experiences and things like that. So from a minute perspective, you do still gradually change. However, with masturbation, that interaction or stimulation is not there at all, and the only thing that you're stimulating is your mind as who and what you are, and therefore you only perpetuate all of everything that your mind consists of and exists as. So we're going to walk that very slowly in showing how exactly we imprint reality, we create internal mind relationships, and within that lock ourselves into a complete alternate mind reality. Within that, we're also going to have a look at how the mind consciousness system has been pre-programmed to create a alternate reality of actual physical reality, meaning explaining why it is that we do not have a direct relationship with actual physical reality, in really getting to know who we are within this physical world and even our own human physical bodies. Where and how does that separation come from? That we are existing so completely within our minds that we do not even have real relationships with other human beings in realizing what they are and representing as parts of ourselves, but have created an alternate mind reality of actual physical reality inside ourselves, where we're having relationships with this physical reality and other human beings only within our own minds, within the interest of sex, sexuality, masturbation, and energy creation. Within that, we're also going to have a look at why it is that in the mind we essentially create realities to deliberately not change ourselves, but have become inherently addicted to the experience of always suppressing, hiding, denying, and ignoring what it is that is really existent as ourselves, as our entire mind consciousness systems, and how masturbation and the relationships we create has become a convenient alternative to in fact taking responsibility for ourselves, who we are, our lives, and our living. And obviously there is a consequence to shortcuts, to convenience, to wanting things to be easy. And this is essentially what we're going to be walking in masturbation, to show you the extent of the consequence that masturbation can create within oneself, one's physical, over a short-term and long-term period. And within that, we're going to give you some practical examples, especially for those that are currently really already possessed within the alternate mind reality of masturbation. And the greatest mistake we tend to make is, I do not see the consequences now, so it's okay to continue and experience it and participate. It simply because I don't see the consequences means it's not real or it's not going to manifest. However, we will give you and show you practical examples of beings in this world and reality, and the consequences of masturbation long term. I'm sure even still arrogance and ego will attempt or try to possess and take over. That's simply the addiction to masturbation that's speaking or taking over to defend and protect our internal mind realities of masturbation. But if one simply allow oneself to walk with us in common sense and draw the lines within one's personal experience, within one's mind and one's reality, one will clearly, directly, immediately see what it is that we're showing you, that already what we're going to be walking, you'll see the consequences and effects on yourself, your relationships, your world, your participation, your living, your physical. So we're going to walk everything with you slowly but surely, and assist and support with giving perspective of the consequences of masturbation, which is essentially the consequence of our addiction to sex and relationships, and the nature of that addiction that is driven by ourselves as the mind to not change but to remain enslaved to our self-definitions, our acceptances and allowances, our beliefs, ideas and perceptions of who we are, and how that completely take over to such an extent that we in fact do not change. And when we'll see and realize and understand the extent to which sex and masturbation has caused human beings to not in fact change, act and live in this world and this reality. And if we start assisting and supporting ourselves to refocus our attention to alternate mind realities and actually become effective living beings in actual physical reality, how we as human beings will be able to change in becoming living examples of how this world and the relationships with ourselves and other human beings can in fact change through changing ourselves. Alright, so here a introduction to the masturbation series that we're going to be walking, and obviously we'll also have a look at the accumulated consequence of masturbation. I mean, many that has walked masturbation for a long period of time can relate to the stages that one's masturbation fantasies evolve in, where one would, for example, start masturbating just to pictures or images, then to fantasy relationship playouts, then to different forms of sex or sexuality, adding in various positions, various ways, and then evolving it to contexts and experiences and physical interactions that one would never have conceived that one even exists within self, in where you more and more within your masturbation fantasy seek satisfaction. And when one stage doesn't satisfy you more, you up it into the next stage and the next stage and the next stage, where, for example, you started off with sensual sex and then it accumulated into violent, aggressive rape sex, and then accumulated into group sex, and your masturbation reality evolved within that context to intensify your energetic experience of sex and sexuality and relationship in your own mind. And how that consequence can lead to a point where your mind can only satisfy you so much, and you have explored all realities, all ways, all methods, and that tend to lead into your porn addiction to gain or gather more and more different forms of sex and sexuality to attribute into one's masturbation fantasies. And for most human beings, even that stimulation, that experience of energy is not enough, and that's where they physically go out and to find ways to satisfy this addiction. And because such human beings are so far-fetched from communication, from forming effective relationships, from socializing and things like that, it leads to acts of molestation, rape, physical abuse, and that can even take it farther in terms of extending the sexual experiences into a serial nature of killing and whatever it is that manifests that they can do in their world and reality to get that equal and one experience of energy satisfaction within a sexual context. So within the masturbation series, we're going to walk this through step by step, very specifically in showing the consequences of becoming possessed with the energy of sex into an alternate mind reality of masturbation, and what that can lead to in one's world and reality if one is so far gone in the mind that all that eventually exists is just to satisfy this energetic experience, and within that is no morality, no right and wrong, no experience or recognition of a life or another human being. You become so manifested within this possession of sex energy that that's all that exists. This to walk in terms of showing all the extremes of masturbation to give you a practical perspective of how far one can accept and allow oneself to be possessed in the mind, and the consequence of that mind possession when you're not here in actual physical reality. Obviously, within the masturbation series, we're also going to provide support and assistance of how to assist and support oneself in expressing this physical experience of sexuality into constructive means of actually assisting and supporting self in one's process of walking in this world, in this reality. Because much of, and the reason for, the consequences of masturbation as well as sex and relationships, simply because sexual energy is not understood. And so within the series you'll have a practical understanding of what is sexual energy, why is it so physical, why does it exist, what is it really, and how was it used and abused into the mind and also by reality, the world system and the money system, to enslave beings and to trap beings in this world and reality to be preoccupied with sex and have no idea of what's really going on, not only in this world but also within the existences that's within this reality. how much we've separated ourselves from what's really happening in this world and within ourselves, that we've become completely blind and ignorant and have not really participated in what's going on, and therefore abdicated total responsibility of ourselves and reality and humanity as a whole. So with that understanding of what is sexual energy, how to direct it, how to express it constructively, to not sabotage or compromise or create consequence for self, one's mind, others, one's world, and one's life. It will assist and support one to really start living in this world and start getting to what is in fact real and important and practical and valid, which is participation in this actual physical reality, rather than being preoccupied in an internal mind reality that the satisfaction only lasts for so long, and your preoccupation then goes into evolving your mind rather than living in a way as a solution in the participation of this practical physical world and reality and making something more of your life than just becoming a energy charger for your own mind addicted to masturbation. I mean, what is going to be said about you when you one day die? He masturbated himself to death, or she masturbated herself to death. I mean, that's not living. I mean, we've got years and years, and we've got so much time in this world, in this reality. Why not just assist and support self in making it constructive, making something more of your life than what you could have ever conceived, and realize that that step out of the mind into the physical is simply a decision that has to be made by self. And one will start realizing the extent to which one has missed self, one has missed living, one has missed others because of the extent of possession by and through masturbation. Alright, this then the introduction, and within the next interview we're going to start with the current manifestation and consequence of masturbation, how masturbation exists at the moment within process, and from there we're going to move you back and forth into the past and current time and future, and so walk an entire perspective of what masturbation is. So it should be interesting, it will be fun, especially within the way that it will be walked, looking at it, how it is now, how was it, where does it come from, who am I now in relation to masturbation, why does it exist, what is the experience toward masturbation, why do I have this relationship with masturbation, why is it so awesome that I don't want to give it up, what is my future with masturbation. So join us as we walk the series and realize that there is really a lot more to enjoying yourself in this world and reality than the limited experience of energy. Thank you very much. And thus how masturbation is manifested equal to and one with an experience that one would have in actual real reality. So if one have a look at sex and masturbation, both are equal and one and exactly the same. However, the two manifest within different contexts of reality, the one in physical reality and the other in mind reality. So in the masturbation series, what we're going to walk is having a look at how exactly it is that we create this alternate mind reality within our minds, into and as which we imprint ourselves and actually generate and create a reality that is equal to and one with actual physical reality. So we completely separate ourselves from physical reality into a mind reality, where whatever we do in this mind reality of masturbation is equal to and one with, as though actually doing it in actual physical reality. We're gonna walk this whole process in showing you why it is in the first place that whatever you do within your masturbation reality is equal to and one with doing it in actual physical reality. This is within the principle of how we as human beings are existing within our minds, our mind consciousness systems, where all of our participation, creation of heaven, so essentially walking that process of how the mind, energy, and sex was directly related to, into, and as the existence of heaven. And masturbation is and does form part of the process of what is sex, as masturbation is the creation of an internal alternate reality in which one experience equal to and one with how one would experience, for example, a relationship or sex with an actual human being, is internalized into an alternate mind reality. Hi everyone, we're walking a series on masturbation, and the series will link into the What is Sex series that we're currently walking. So we suggest for a history in relation to how sex became part of human civilization, as well as the primary purpose of human existence, to invest in the What is Sex interview series, where we had started off with walking an entire history in how the mind was created, programmed, and manifested within the nature of and as energy, and how that energy has been channeled into human functioning and living to produce and experience and create oneself through energy, and how that energy generation and creation, primarily through sex, had been channeled into the existence and